I don't think the U.S. has any particular leverage over China. I think, as Tim Cook was just saying, I think what you're seeing is we're in a world economy where when either the U.S. or China, sneezes, it does give the other and the rest of the world a cold. And so they both have a lot to lose. I feel like the nature of our electoral system probably gives China more leverage. President Trump really can't afford to start losing support among some of his Republican senators from agriculture communities. He really can't afford to do things that look like they are risking leading us into a recession, which he knows would be very harmful, not just for the economy, for his political prospects. But he also has tough political challenge if he looks like he is just being too weak. Because remember, this is a president who set the U.S.-China trade deficit, goods deficit, as his main criteria. It was $347 billion in Obama's last year. It will probably be over $400 billion. So, I have a feeling that even if he declares a bit of peace that will be calming for the market, that's not going to take away necessarily the political controversy at home.
Elizabeth, your view? Do you think that China has more leverage?
I don't actually think that China has more leverage. I think it is, as Gene said, a lose-lose proposition. Nobody wins in a trade war. I think on the face of it, actually, China is at greater risk simply because it is more exposed to the U.S. economy than the U.S. economy is exposed to China. I also think it's a mistake to assume that just because we have an electoral system, in which our president has to be voted in and out, that somehow Xi Jinping isn't facing a lot of pressure at home. He is. The China's economy has been slowing over this past year. Reform economists are out in force, very disappointed that Xi has not made progress on structural economic reform. So I think that there are a lot of issues at home in China right now, and the trade war is simply adding to the pressures that Xi Jinping is facing.
Gene, do you look at what's happening right now, the fact that this administration is tackling some core issues as it relates to doing business in China fairly and openly, and wish that you and your administrations had been more aggressive in confronting the Chinese?
Well, I do think the Obama administration was more aggressive. I think one of the real problems was that in China, WTO, there was negotiated an anti-surge provision that was supposed to protect U.S. workers if there were surges, which the Bush administration never utilized one single time. I also think that, as China has grown and become stronger, it is more fair for the U.S. to say, if you want to be a superpower, you want to be at the big boys and big girls table, this notion of the commercial espionage, the intellectual property theft is more and more intolerable. And so I do think I have been very critical of the way that President Trump has handled things. I think it's been reckless. I think they've had no strategy. But I do support the willingness to break some eggs and even have a little bit of turbulence to send China a message that this type of intellectual theft and commercial espionage is just not acceptable anymore.